Hindu News Analysis brought to you by UPSC IAS. Today's date is September 14, 2023. Now, before getting into news article, do subscribe to our channel for more updates. Hit the bell icon button so that you can get your notification. Let us move on into the news article discussion. The list of articles that we are going to discuss today is here. So, without much delay, let us get into the news article discussion. Take a look at this news article. It talks about eCourts project. It mentions that Union Cabinet has approved the third phase of eCourts project. The Cabinet has approved 7,000 to 10 crore rupees for this project. Phase 3 will focus on updating the digital infrastructure of the lower judiciary. This is about the news article given here in this context. Let us revise about the eCourts project. So, what is eCourts? First of all, eCourts or virtual court is a court in which filing of cases and the adjudicating process happens over the internet. It reduces the need for the brick and mortar infrastructure, that is, it aims to reduce the need of the people or advocate to be physically present in the court. See, in our country, the eCourts project was conceptualized on the basis of national policy and the action plan for implementation of ICT in the Indian Judiciary 2005 report. This report was submitted to the government by E-Committee of Supreme Court. So, based on this report, only eCourt project was started. The eCourt project aims to transform the Indian judiciary by inducting information and communication technology. Now let us take a small detour on some of the points about E-Committee of Supreme Court. It says the E-Committee is the governing body charged with overseeing the eCourts project. The CJI is the chairperson of the E-Committee. The main objective of the E-Committee are interlinking of all courts across the country, making Indian judicial system IT enabled, enhancing the productivity of Indian judiciary, and finally to make the justice delivery system accessible to cost effective and transparent manner and accountable through the eCourt project. The E-Committee pursues these objectives. Now coming back, let us see how the eCourts project is implemented in India. eCourts project is being implemented in India in a phased manner, and it is a pan-India project. Phase 1 was implemented during 2007 to 2015. Phase 2 was started in 2015 and entered in 2019. Some of the achievements of the two phases include establishment of digital infrastructure across the courts, the courses of case management, the introduction of unique case number record, and the launch of National Judicial Data Grid NJDG, and then the launch of the Interoperable Criminal Justice System ICJS. Note all these points very important. Now coming to phase 3. In phase 3, the E-Committee has decided to adopt a ecosystem approach in digital infrastructure. Ecosystem approach, members, many stakeholders can access and operate with the data simultaneously. This approach will support data sharing across the present courts and legal aid. This is all about the phases. Implementation of eCourts project. With this basic information about eCourts project, now let us see the advantages associated with the eCourts project. First, let us see the advantages the eCourts project will bring to the citizens. Here the first one is improved accessibility. The accessibility is improved due to better scheduling mechanism and online digital filing. Next, it will bring down the cost of justice of filing, and virtual hearings will reduce the travel cost, thereby reducing the cost of accessing justice. The next advantage is eCourt will increase the transparency through live streaming of cases hearing and enhancing access to the data. Finally, eCourts are environmentally friendly as use of paper by the judicial system will come down. Moving forward, let us see the advantages of ECO project will bring to the lawyers. Firstly, the greater access to information through eCourts. The advocates can draft the better legal strategies. Secondly, since the court records are updated digitally in real time, the need for regular updation of case files where the lawyers will come down. Now let us see the advantages the eCourts project will bring to the judges. First advantage here is that unified digital platform will enable the courts to better track the cases. Secondly, with digital courts, there will be a greater access to information. This will help the judges make well-informed decisions very easily. Finally, the code will help in effective delivery of justice, integration of the judicial system with that of Polish prisoners, prosecution, etc., which will improve the speed of information sharing and make the judicial process more efficient. These are the major advantages of eCourts or virtual courts, but it also has some issues associated with it. The issues include low penetration of the internet in digital India digital literacy, weak digital infrastructure, and vulnerability to hacking and cyber security. These are some of the pros and cons associated with the eCourts. So these learned points, let us move on into the next news article discussion. Take a look at this editorial article. It talks about sustainability of biofuels in the past. We have two options to overcome the problem of conventional fuels. One was adopting biofuels and other was electric vehicles. Many doubted the use of biofuels because the electric vehicles gained a huge popularity, but now we came to understand that even the electric vehicle industry has negative effects on environment. So that was growing importance for the use of biofuels. That is what the article also highlights here. The article speaks about importance of biofuels and challenges in adopting biofuels in India. So in this context, let us cover all other important points mentioned in this news article. Before that, the syllabus relevant to the news article highlighted here for your reference. You can go through it. Firstly, what is biofuel? Any hydrocarbon fuel that is produced from an organic matter. Here, organic matter in the sense living or any living material. So when any hydrocarbon fuel is produced from such organic matter in a short period of time, then it is considered as biofuel. By a few word, may be solid, liquid, or gaseous in nature. C. By few words can be used to replace or can be used in addition to the diesel, petrol, or other fossil fuels for transport and other applications. Also, they can be used to generate heat and electricity. Now, moving on to the different generations of biofuel. Now that were 4 generations of biofuels. Let us see one by one. First, biofuel are usually obtained from food crops like broken rice, sugar beet, corn, etc. They are generally blended with fossil fuels. When blended, the greenhouse gases emission get reduced. Second generation biofuels are produced from non-food crops. They are obtained from non-food yield, for example, wood, forest waste, food crop waste, vegetable oil, industrial waste, ecological biomass crops. The second generation biofuels emit less carbon dioxide when compared to the first generation biofuels. Now let us take the third generation biofuels. Third generation biofuels are also known as algae fuel or oil age, since they are produced from the algae. The algae leads to the production of all types of biofuels like biodiesel, gasoline, butanol, propanol, ethanol with high yield. Now coming to the fourth generation biofuel, these biofuels are produced from genetically engineered organisms, for example genetically modified cyanobacteria. So this basic understanding. Now let us see the status of biofuels in India. So in India, in order to promote the biofuels in the country, a national policy on biofuels was made by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy during the year 2009. Later in 2018, an upgraded version of National Policy on Biofuels was introduced. In National Policy of Biofuels 2018, the central government expanded the scope of raw materials for biofuel production by allowing use of sugarcane containing materials like sugar beet, sweet sorghum, starch containing materials like corn, cassava, and also damaged food grains. The policy has the objective of reaching 20% of ethanol blending and 5% biodiesel blending by year of 2030. Moving on to see the challenges in adopting biofuels. First is low efficiency. Some biofuels provide less energy than fossil fuels. For example, a gallon of ethanol has less energy than a gallon of gasoline. Secondly, they will have impact on land usage. As we all know, extracting fossil fuels from the ground is expensive, which make them costly, but producing biofuels also requires land and can impact the production of food crops, using farmer land for fuel crops instead of food crops. Rise food prices and probably leads to shortages. Next is regarding biodiversity. Growing biofuel crops, especially genetically modified ones, can help farmers make money, but having too many of these crops can harm the variety of plants and animals in an area, leading to biodiversity loss. Now, moving on to the environmental challenges. See, many biofuel crops are highly water intensive. Large scale monoculture of biofuel crops often leads to deforestation. So these are all some of the important challenges in the use of biofuels. Make note of them. Despite these challenges, the article suggests that there are many ways in which we can use biofuels in a sustainable manner. According to the Energy Transition Commission, we should use biofuels in place where it is hard to find cleaner alternatives. For example, it could be a good option for long distance flight and big trucks that cannot easily switch to electric power. But for regular cars that use gasoline, biomass might not be the best option. According to the International Energy Agency, in order to achieve zero net emissions worldwide by 2050, we need to make 3 times more sustainable biofuels by 2030. For this, first generation ethanol probably won't help much, but second generation ethanol could be a good choice. These biofuels must be made in many smaller places close to the raw material production instead of one big factory. Now, moving on to what can be done to address the challenges associated with the adoption of biofuels. See, by a few words, can help in can help in rural and agricultural development in the form of biofuels. Helps in rural and agricultural development in the form of new cash crops, promoting the use of biofuels in production. In transportation will help in reducing the crude import bill. Secondly, efforts for producing sustainable biofuels should be made by ensuring use of wasteland and municipal waste that get generated in cities. Thirdly, a community based biodiesel distribution program can be tried. And fourthly, the government should announce a better pricing for ethanol. These are all some of the important points given in the news article. See, it is tough to find the right balance between making a cheaper biofuel and on a large scale and transporting them over a long distance. So, a Global Biofuel Alliance, which is of recent G20 summit, should play a role in creating new ideas and technologies for getting the materials and making biofuels in smaller local places. So these learned points. Now let us move on into the next news article discussion. Now take a look at this news article. Over 5,000 people have died due to flooding in Libya. The death toll is expected to rise further. Many residents are missing and tens of thousands are homeless. Flooding are caused by Mediterranean storm named Daniel, which hits East Libya. This is all about the news. In this context, let us learn some important points about Libya in prelims perspective. See, Libya is the fourth largest country in Africa. It is bounded by Mediterranean Sea to the north, Tunisia and Algeria to the west, Nigeria and Chad to the south, Sudan and Egypt to the east. Libya is almost entirely covered by a Libyan desert. Libyan desert is a flat plateau that's part of Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert is the world's largest hard desert. Now coming to its habitation, most of the Libya's people live in the cities along the Mediterranean. C, where the climate is milder than country's hot desert interior. That is why Tripoli, that is the capital of Libya, and Benghazi, second largest city, are both located near the coast. Almost 25% of Libyans live in Tripoli and Benghazi. Now we shall see the important rivers of Libya. See, the only large river flowing through Libya is River Nile. Northeastern part of Libya borders Egypt, and this border is defined by a Nile river. However, the portion of the Nile that flows through Libya is relatively small compared to its overall length. Libya has many seasonal rivers. They are often referred as bodies. They are usually dry and have many minimal flow except during occasional rains. Since Libya is a desert, it is so dry that no permanent rivers flow through its boundaries. Water may flow beneath the ground and occasionally seep above ground. So in order to access the water below the desert, Libya built a great man-made river. See, the great man-made river is a network of underground pipelines that deliver fresh water to the cities of Libya. Now talking about flora and fauna of Libya, as we discussed earlier, most of the Libya is covered by desert. Its plants and wildlife reflects these arid conditions. Hyena, fennec, foxes, jackals, gazelles, snakes, including venomous adders and kites are found throughout the country. Some strip of the land near Libyan coast support native forest of pine, juniper and cypress. The country's coastline is also home to several rare wildlife species, loggerhead, turtles and Egyptian tortoises. Nest on the country's beaches and share the water with many types of dolphins, including the striped dolphin, snake, falcon and marbled pole cats are often spotted close to the coast. The country's largest national park is El Khouf National Park, which is known for its sand dunes, wetlands and hilly terrains. The park is home to Egyptian wolves, golden eagles, red foxes, flamingos and other wildlife. That's all regarding this news article discussion. We saw in detail about the geography of Libya. So these learned points in mind, let us move on into the next news article discussion. Take a look at this news article. This news article talks about issuing a disability certificate to the people above the age of 5 inherited with sickle cell diseases. This certificate will allow the person to get reservation and benefits of schemes, but the issue here is that the plan to issue certificate has been stuck at 3 union ministries for nearly 3 years. This is the crux of the news article. Here in this context, let us quickly go through about sickle cell disease in prelims perspective. Let us start with sickle cell disease, SCD. See, sickle cell disease is a group of red blood cell disorders that affects the hemoglobin. As you know, all know, hemoglobin is a protein that carries oxygen throughout the body. Normally these RBCs are disc shaped. They are flexible enough to move easily through the blood vessels, but in sickle cell disease the red blood cells becomes sickle crescent or sickle shaped due to a genetic mutation. These sickle celled blood cells do not bend or move easily and can block the blood flows to the rest of the body. Secondly, this sickle cell disease earlier which can cause a shortage of RBC. Both the ways the disease causes severe harm to a person. Now talking about the causes of the SCD, already said it's a genetic disease. To be very specific, it is caused by the hemoglobin is very inherited from both the parents. If one of the parents contains the hemoglobin, then is called sickle cell, right? Sickle cell trait people can live a normal life without any symptoms. So remember, sickle cell trait, sickle cell disease is different from each other. Now let us move on to the symptoms of sickle cell disease. See, generally the symptoms do not occur until the age of 4, but 4 months. But common symptoms are firstly shortage of RPC. This makes the patient anemic and it leads to a less oxygen supply and causes a fatigue in person. Secondly, the common symptoms is the pain caused due to clogging of blood. This pain is technically called crisis. They can last from hours to days. Thirdly, chronic organ damage can happen in extreme cases like spleen damage. Fourthly, delayed growth and puberty. Apart from this, painful joints caused by arthritis. Also remember, generally with sickle cell disease, the symptoms may differ according to the organ blocked by ACD cells. Okay. Now moving on to the next question, how can we diagnose the sickle cell disease? Can be diagnosed with a simple blood test, since the government in budget 2023-2024 has aimed to eradicate the sickle cell disease by 2047 and has launched a national sickle cell disease anemia elimination mission. Currently, all states of India are in the screening program to start the treatment earlier. Finally, moving on to the prevention and treatment aspects. See, on the prevention aspect, if two individuals with a sickle cell disease marry each other, there is a high probability that their children will have the sickle cell disease. So by screening individuals with sickle cell, try it before marriage. The spread of disease can be prevented. So Ministry of Tribal Affairs and Health plans to screen at least 7 crore people for sickle cell diseases within 2025 to 2026. On the treatment aspect, sickle cell disease can be cured only by bone marrow transplant or stem cell transplantation, and blood transfusion can combat anemia and give cure from pain. This is all about the sickle cell disease. So with these learned points, let us move on into the next news article discussion. Take a look at this text and context article. This article is about synthesis Stocktake report that was released recently by United Nations Climate Secretariat. See, this report gives us a picture about the progress made by countries in achieving that 2015 Paris Agreement goals. The synthesis Stocktake report was prepared based on the outcome of 3 meetings that were held so far to discuss the achievements made by the countries. This is about the article. Let us given here are the syllabus. I mentioned the news article. The syllabus relevant to the news article is highlighted here for your reference. You can go through it first of all. All know the synthesis report is related to global stocktake exercise. Now, what is global stocktake? See, global stocktake is nothing but an assessment of climate change action carried out by the world countries. Basically, the global stocktake evaluates the progress made on climate type action at the global levels. By doing this, the global stocktake helps the world countries to identify overall gaps in achieving the Paris Agreement. Goal. Apart from this, it also provide opportunities to bridge the gaps in achieving the goal. As we saw earlier, the synthesis report provides the details about the progress made by the countries in achieving the Paris Agreement goals. If we look closer, it resembles the objectives of global stocktake exercise, right? See, generally, synthesis report provides some valuable data to carry out the global stocktake exercise. To put it simply, global stocktake exercise is carried out by looking into the data from the synthesis report. This is how the synthesis report is related to global stocktake exercise. How did a global stocktake come into picture? See, in 2015, COP21 of UN Climate Change Conference was held in Paris. In this conference, most of the world's countries have committed to substantially reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions in an effort to limit the rise in the global temperature. They agreed to limit the global temperatures from rising beyond 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by end of this 21st century. Apart from this, the countries also agreed that they will pursue or try to limit the increase in the global temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius. As far as possible, these goals lead to the enactment of Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement also emphasizes the same goal agreed by the countries in COP21. Based on the Paris Agreement, the countries have laid out their nationally determined contributions. A nationally determined contribution is nothing but the commitment or goals made by each country to reduce the greenhouse gas emission and adapt the climate change. Up from these points, we observe that world countries have set up goals to limit the global greenhouse gas emissions. It is most appreciable, but there should be some review mechanism to analyze the progress of countries, right? For this concern, the countries have agreed to periodically review their efforts in containing greenhouse gases. This reviewing mechanism is what called global stocktake. The global stocktake evaluates the progress made on climate actions at a global level, and this is how the global stocktake came into the picture. Generally, the global stocktake is expected to take place once every 5 years. Note that the first global stocktake is going to take place this year. See, the COP28 is going to be held in Dubai this November. So it is expected that the world leaders will conduct the discussion on global stocktake with the help of the recently released synthesis report, and the leaders may arrive at a significant decision. So we have to wait for the outcome of. I hope you got a clear idea about the global stocktake, how it came into existence, and now we will see about the important points from the synthesis report. See, overall the report says that the world is not on the track to achieve the Paris Agreement targets. The report validates this concern by highlighting the latest United Nations emission gap report. See, the 2022 UN emission gap report states that 23 billion tons of carbon dioxide are required to be cut to keep the emissions in line with the Paris Agreement. But the report noted that even if we fully implement the current pledges made by the countries, it would only cut 2 to 3 billion tons. This will leave an emission gap of around 20 billion tons. By highlighting this data, the synthesis report noted that the world is not on track to achieve the Paris Agreement targets. But at the same time, the report also mentioned that the world countries still have a narrow change to limit the temperature rise by acting together. The report stated that the much more ambition was needed to reduce the global greenhouse gas emission. The report suggests the countries limit global greenhouse gas emission by 43% by 2030 and further 60% by 2035, and reached net zero CO2 emission by 2050 globally. So it is clear that the report is advocating the nations to try to work together with enhanced goals, and this is one important point from synthesis report. Secondly, the report mentions that a rapid change from fossil fuels to cleaner energy could be disruptive. This is because rapid change will affect the MSME that relies mostly on fossil fuel. Fossil fuel based commitments. So the report advocated the countries to ensure that the energy transition would be equitable and inclusive. Thirdly, the report highlighted the need for scaling up the renewable energy. It says that renewable energy has to be scaled up to meet the Paris Agreement goal in a time-bound manner. Apart from this, the report says that all harmful fossil fuels have to be rapidly eliminated. Fourthly, the report noted that most of the climate action efforts were fragmented and unequally distributed across the regions. So it advocates that countries should adopt a transparent reporting on climate action effort. This could enhance the understanding between the countries and also facilitates the international cooperation. And finally, the report said that the access to climate finance in developing countries need to be enhanced. This will help the developing countries to meet a goal of low greenhouse gas emission and facilitates the climate resilient development. And these are all some of the important points mentioned in the synthesis report. So for this from these learned points, let us move on into the next news article discussion. Take a look at this news article. This article talks about the launch of Ayushman Bhav health campaign by President Draupadi Murmu. Actually, it is a campaign that aims to deliver the healthcare services to the last mile of India. Apart from this, it plans to achieve the dual goals. They are consolidating the accessibility and availability of services to the underserved people. This is the crux of the news article given here in this context. Let us learn about Ayushman Bhav campaign from exam perspective. So what is this Ayushman Bhav campaign? So it is a campaign initiated by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It aims to provide saturation coverage of healthcare services reaching every village and towns in India. I hope you all remember about Ayushman Bharat PM Jan Arogya Yojana, in short called PMJY. This campaign is built upon the base of the National Around program, Bharat program, which is a watershed health program of the country. PMJY covers 10 crore poor families and provides insurance coverage up to 5 lakhs per family per year for secondary and tertiary hospitalization, and upgrade the primary health centers to health and welfare centers. So this campaign Ayushman Bhav is built upon the PMJY. The campaign is a collaborative effort spearheaded by Gram Panchayat with government departments and other locally elected bodies of villages and towns. So this is the basic understanding. Now let us see about the 3 components of the campaign. First one is 3.0 Ayushman. It aims to Ayushman Bharat Apke Dwar. It aims to provide Ayushman cards to remaining eligible beneficiaries enrolled under the PMJY scheme of Ayushman Bharat. It will ensure that more individuals have access to essential health services. Secondly, Ayushman weekly melas facilitates the creation of ABH, the IDs, and issuance of Bharat card, Ayushman Bharat cards. These melas will also offer a variety of services like early diagnosis, comprehensive primary healthcare services, telecommunication with specialists and appropriate referrals, etc. Thirdly, there are Ayushman's Shabas, which are gathering in every village and panchayats. It will play an important role like distributing Ayushman cards and generating ABHA IDs, components of raising awareness about the vital health schemes and diseases like non-communicable diseases. There is also a component of using awareness about vital health schemes and the disease like non-communicable diseases. It also includes tuberculosis through Nikshay, Mitra, and sickle cell diseases as well. It also plans for blood donation and organ donation. Finally, Ayushman Bhav campaign is aligned with the vision of creating healthy villages and healthy Gram Panchayat. It is working to lay the foundation for achieving the universal health coverage in the countries, which is SDG target 3.8, in order to instill the spirit of competitive governance. Panchayats that successfully saturate the health scheme will earn the prestigious title of Ayushman Gram Panchayat or Ayushman Urban Ward. So this is about Ayushman Bhav campaign. Make a note of it, a potential prelims topic for. So these learned points, we will just move on into the next news article discussion. Take a look at this news article from the text and context page. Recently, a report titled Elephant Corridor of India was released by Union Environment Ministry. According to the report, there are 150 elephant corridors present in India. Out of 150 reported elephant corridors, 126 are within the political boundaries of the states. while 19 are located across the 2 states. Apart from this, there are also 6 transnational corridors between India and Nepal, primarily in Uttar Pradesh. If we look into the state-specific data, West Bengal topped the list with 26 elephant corridors. And the report further said the intensity of elephant use has increased in 59 corridors. This is about the news article given here in this context. Let us learn few points about elephant corridors. See, India is home to around 30,000 elephants, which accounts for 60% of the global population of elephants. There are elephants used to travel continuously from one forest habitat to other to obtain their food. This phenomena helps in dispersal of seeds, which in turn safeguards the forest. Because of this fact only, elephants are regarded as the gardener of the forest. Now coming to elephant's corridor, as we saw just now, the elephant continuously move from one forest habitat to another to obtain their food, so there must be some pathways. They connect to the habitat of the elephant, right? This pathways is what is termed as elephant corridors. To put it simply, the elephant corridor refers to the narrow pathway or land strips between the 2 natural habitats of elephants. It connects one natural forest habitat with another habitat. The elephant corridor allows the elephant to move freely from one location to another without coming in contact with humans. Now talking about the threats, land fragmentation is the foremost threat that hinders the movement of elephants from one place to another. This is because the land fragmentation often results in cutting up of 2 natural habitats of the elephants. Apart from this, coal and iron ore mining also threatens the existence of elephant corridors. In states like Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, the forest lands are diverted for mining activities. Because of this, most of the animal corridors have vanished in such areas. So these are all the threats faced by elephants. These threats only aggravate the elephant-human conflict. See, the issue here is if the elephant do not find a corridor, they can't move from one to another. So they lack the proper food and they end up eating green lands. This is only cause a human elephant conflict. Now talking about the protection status of elephant corridor. See, the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 contains certain provisions for protection of wildlife corridors. As per the section of Wildlife Protection Act, the state government can declare certain areas including the elephant corridors as conservation reserve or community reserve. Once declared, the corridors falls under the category of protected areas, so it accords the high protection to the elephant corridors. Apart from this, the government can also declare certain wildlife corridors as heritage sites. And other Biological Diversity Act 2002 this is also helps in the management and conservation of the elephant corridors. That's all regarding this news article discussion. In this news article discussion, we saw in detail about the elephant corridors of India report. Then we saw about the water elephant corridors and their water elephant corridors and their protection status. So far learned points. Let us move on into the next part of the news article discussion, which is a preliminary practice question discussion. Take a look at the first question. This question is about National Judicial Data Grid. NJDG. Statement 1 is implemented under the aegis of E-Committee, Supreme Court of India. Statement 2, it provides a comprehensive database of orders, of judgments and a case details of only districts and subordinate and high courts. Statement 3, it promotes transparency and access of information for all stakeholders. So you have to find the correct statement. Here the correct answer for the question is option B. Okay, only 2, that is the second option is incorrect. Coming to the second question, the Chief Justice Chandrachud announced the Supreme Court on National Judicial Data Grid. So from now why the answer option 2 is incorrect means, see, just now we saw in our discussion that our Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud announced that onboarding of Supreme Court on and the National Judicial Data Grid NJDG. So from now on NJDG will have the data from Supreme Court as well. So the correct answer for the question is option B, only 2. Now moving on to look at the question about Ayushman Bhav campaign. The statement, it seeks to replace the Ayushman Bharat Yojana due to inefficiency. See, the statement is actually incorrect because the program itself is the build and complements this Ayushman Bharat scheme instead of replacing them. So the statement is incorrect. Second statement says that the aim of the campaign is to provide the saturation coverage of healthcare services reaching every village and towns in the country. The statement is actually correct statement. Third statement says it relies on the civil society's organization rather than local bodies of the government. This is incorrect. Panchayat and other local bodies spearheads the campaign. So the correct answer for the question is option A, that is one pair only. Moving on to the question that is about elephant corridors in India. One statement, the state government can notify a certain area in the state as elephant corridor under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. The statement is actually correct statement. Second statement, according to the report from the Union Environment Ministry, there are less than 100 elephant corridors in India. The statement is incorrect. Actually, the report says that there are 150 elephant corridors in India. Statement 3 says Karnataka is the highest number of elephant corridors in India. Statement is also incorrect. West Bengal is having the highest elephant corridors in India. Out of 150 elephant corridors, 26 are from present in the West Bengal. So the correct answer here is option A, only 1. Now moving on into the question, the last question, that is a Daniel storm, which was recently seen in news, is originated in which of the following water bodies? Answer here is option A, North Atlantic Ocean. Option B is Arabian Sea. Option C is Mediterranean Sea, and option D is South China Sea. Answer here is Mediterranean Sea is the correct answer. Okay, next question is final question, that is a sickle cell anemia. It's a group of inherited red blood cell disorder that affects the hemoglobin. The statement is actually correct statements. Second statement, it is less prevalent among the tribal groups once they are inherit resistivity to it. Statement is incorrect since the sickle cell disease is prevalence high among the tribals. So the Ministry of Tribals and Ministry of Health Affairs is planning to screen the 7 growth tribals for sickle cell disease. Statement 3 is recently the government of India launched the sickle cell anemia mission to eradicate the disease by 2047. This statement is actually correct. So the answer here for us option B, only 2 pairs. Okay. The mains practice questions for today's discussion is displayed here. You can go through it once. Again, all the very best for the mains candidates who are going to write the exam tomorrow. Just do well. So this can come to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to UPSC IAS YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.